Carl here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for sure. It is 31 days of Halloween. We're right at the end here, but we're not quite done. We've got a few more films to talk about, and this is an intriguing one to talk about. It is, of course, taking as nostalgia goggles off, reliving childhood horror to look back at The Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Yeah, Part 3, not 2, and certainly not 4 or 5. Obviously, the first film is an absolute classic. This is not that film in any way, shape or form. I don't love it as even close to how much I do. I don't appreciate it in the same way. I do not love this film compared in the way I do the first film. But I have a lot of affection for it regardless. More now, I think, than I did when I was younger. When I was younger, I think too much of this film I found disturbing or just uncomfortable to watch, whereas now as an adult, I'm like, what a clever and intriguing idea. But that's Brian using it for you. That is a clever and interesting creator, and I think he really wanted to do something quite niche here. It is effectively a Romeo and Juliet story, but with zombies and a twisted mind taking that idea and running with it. Obviously, like there isn't a follow-on here. This isn't. It's got a 3 in it, but it's not a sequel, so to speak. It uses elements, trioxon and stuff like that from the original. But what it does here is very, very different in regards to its sort of zombies side of things, except for the idea that you could retain your humanity after being reanimated, but the hunger and the desire would drive you. Where it's here, you know, it's Julie, she's hungry all the time and nothing will sate her, but she's still got humanity, she's aware of who she is, but it seems to want to take control and getting stronger and stronger and stronger until she discovers that something that sates that hunger, aside from brains, is pain. And of course that results in some pretty egregious effects and things that happen to her body as the film goes on. That entire sequence, man, you know the one I'm talking about at the end where she's abusing her body in the sewers, and we're kind of getting us close-ups of her doing all these, like she's getting ready to go to battle. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando, putting all the and stuff on and muscles and all that, yet she's stabbing herself with things and putting glass in her skin and all of these, and obviously the eventual transformation is absolutely horrifying. But along the way there are so many moments where it's just like a little bit of a sort of road movie to a degree, because they're basically being chased and constantly going from place to place, but then you've got these mad bits of gore and things like that. The gang, the image of that guy's brains that's being picked up his head always stands out with me. In fact, actually, the early points involving the tall, sort of skinny zombie that sort of breaks free and kills the medical people, that's a really disturbing scene as well. I always remember Return of the Living Dead 3 as being a film with disturbing moments, and that actually stuck. Like as an adult, going back to rewatch it, I remembered that there were the disturbing scenes, there were disturbing images and all of that, like around what I remembered as not being a very interesting film. I take a bit of that back. I actually think it's quite clever and quite interesting, and I really enjoy following the characters, and I really enjoy the different varies and locations. I love a lot of the sewer stuff and things like that. But when it's horror, I think it's really horror. I saw this when I was younger, coming off the back of watching basically the Return of the Living Dead trilogy in order. So I'd have seen the first one and absolutely fallen in love with the madness of that. Then I saw the second one, and kid me loved the second one. Adult me can't stand that film. I can appreciate some of the benefits and the good parts of it, but I despise what they did with Return of the Living Dead 2. I do not need another comedy zombie movie. So it was great to kind of see them like go back to horror for me, but as a child I think I probably wanted a bit more comedy. This is dark all the way through. It kind of reminds me of Day of the Dead, and I think I had a lot of feelings about that as a kid, and it's why I don't remember watching it loads as a kid. I remember watching it more as a teenager and then as an older person as I am now, and appreciating more of the detail, in particular the character of Julie, who is played fucking phenomenally well. That's someone I could never really appreciate as a kid, and the nuances between her and Kurt's relationship. Absolutely love those characters. But when it comes down to it, like, it's Return of the Living Dead, and what we wanted to see was zombie stuff, and this does not have a lot of it. What it almost has is like zombies who've been experimented on, and leading up to kind of like the end where more trucks and zombies came out. I always thought it was an interesting twist not to sort of use the sort of Tarman traditional with this. As a kid, I didn't appreciate it at all. As an adult, I get it, but I also think, man, like that's an easy link to make, but back to the original film more than anything else. But I really like the design, even if it does look a bit plastically now. I really like how it looks. You know, the thing that's got its face stuck to its arm and ends up ripping it off. I love that. But you know what I really hated as a kid, but now massively appreciate. And it just shows you where your mind goes. I hated the ending. I always remember, as a kid, hating the ending of this film. It is super depressing. Obviously, Kurt gets bit. Julie, you know, she can't live the way she is, and Kurt's inevitably going to die / become a zombie or whatever happens when they're bitten in this film. So they basically kill themselves in an inferno. That's how the film ends, with them kissing as the place is burning around them. That's super depressing. As a kid, I hated that. I hate depressing stuff like that. I don't appreciate it as a youngster. I want a happy ending. Everybody lives happily ever after and all of that nonsense. And even though I'd seen The Return of the Living Dead, well, of course, Bert, who is it? Bert, Ernie, which is it? Bert, Ernie, I can't remember. Frank, it's Frank. Frank obviously has that really depressing scene where he kills himself. That was part of a wider picture, and that still was a depressing movie. But this just felt like it was too much, so I hated it as a kid. Now as an adult, I love it. I think it nails the ending perfectly. Their romance was doomed, and this is the way they choose to end it. I absolutely adored that. I thought it was beautiful to some degree. Not in that, oh, isn't that so romantic, they're dying together. More like that's the way their story had to end. And I appreciate that. So it's funny how those things change. I still don't think it's a great movie, though. I think the Return of the Living Dead franchise is a mess. You know, there's 5 movies in it now. I know we all forget about them, but 4 and 5, Necropolis and Rave to the Grave, those ones that came later, I despise them as much as everything else. It's still all about the first film and the first film alone for you. But if you were to ask me to be ranking them, it's first, then it's third. This one is second for me because of all the things I've just mentioned there. And I love the fact that it still had such an effect on me as a child that it meant the Return of the Living Dead name was synonymous as part of my childhood. All 3 of those movies had moments on me. Shit, even though I'm not going to talk about it here, the second one had moments such as the worms in that woman's face and the death scene inside the church where she just lets her boyfriend bite her in the back of the head. Like, all of these stuff from movie number 2 had its mark on me. Return of the Living Dead has had a huge impact on my psyche and horror love. And the third film can't be ignored for that as well. What do you reckon, though? Return of the Living Dead Part 3. You got any thoughts and know what to do? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.